fucking out of here. That's it. I'm not going to put up with this stupidity anymore, and all the other drama that goes with it. And that was the night I quit, and I walked out and left Surgical Steel. And
was this before or after? We're like in the late '80s now. Was this before or after you were interviewed for the air quotes documentary, The Decline of Western Civilization 2?
I think this happened before that, because whenever I was back in town, I lived right across the alley from the club that had the Cat House. So I was always in the Cat House and like that. And so I went back to hanging out in the Cat House again. I said, hey, I just got back from Phoenix. I was playing here, recording, blah, blah, blah. It didn't mean anything to anyone in L.A. because it was a whole different bubble. They were isolated from that.
Right.
The guy, while I was out in Phoenix, I went to an after party, and the guys from Faster Pussycat were there, and they were like so happy to see someone else from L.A. Mm-hmm. So they were the only ones that knew that I was playing and recording out in Phoenix. While I was at the Cat House, I got approached by Penelope Spheris' daughter Anna. And she goes, do you want to be in this movie my mom's doing? And I said, well, okay. And what was it? And she gave me kind of a brief rundown. I didn't know that every band in town was going to be in the movie either. But,
right.
You know, and I didn't have a band now to be in to play for the movie, you know, for the production. So it just became the interview segment, you know, with the Light Bulb Kids. I hooked up with the singer. We were putting a band together. We didn't really have a name, so we called it Sex, just because we didn't have anything. So that's what we used in the movie during the interview. And I brought my bass as a prop because I didn't know what it was going to consist of. So we were in the movie and Decline. We saw the movie when it came out, and yada, yada, yada.
What if you don't make it as a rock star?
That question is not in my mind. The minute you doubt is the minute you lose it.
I'm like him, though. It really doesn't enter my mind.
And it is what it is.
It is what it is in the sense that it's completely engineered and fake, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole scene with Ozzy and the shaky hands and the
Chris Holmes at the pool.
Chris Holmes with the bottle full of water. I'm actually really curious about this because I talk about this in almost every episode of Metal Mythos, but the year 1993 is like this fascinating cutoff point where it was suddenly like brutally unpopular to play anything remotely resembling metal. And it's funny because the audience was still there. They were just like despised and treated like trailer trash. So how did you perceive like the changing dynamics of the music industry after Cobain pressed a shotgun to the base of its brainstem and pulled the trigger?
Thanks for the visual.
Oh, it's a visual I enjoy. But no, by all means, how did you weather the 90s? Because you sort of reinvented yourself. There was sort of you moved into other areas from what I understand, kind of.
Yeah. I grew the layers out of the hair. I despised the whole Seattle thing. But right before that, I was like 88. I put together. I got called up by one of the booking agents at the Troubadour. He said, "There's a guitar player who just got in town from Detroit, and he's trying to contact you or something." And I said, "All right." So it puts me in touch with the guitar player, who was one of my favorite guitar players to play with. This guy was great, and he eventually wound up moving into my apartment, being one of my roommates, and we put together the band Thunderball. And we got a drummer on a recommendation from a friend of mine from the East Coast. Guy snagged the audition right away. He was great, and I wanted to get Lucy Forbes. We were looking for singers, and Lucy Forbes was running a kind of a clearinghouse for musicians, placing them in bands and stuff. So we get our drummer, Cecil Freeman, and Lucy found us a singer from a Christian band out of Kentucky called Bride.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Which was Dale Thompson.
Yeah. So
Dale wanted to give the Christian thing a break for a while and try out L.A. So he became our first singer. I got some budgeting together, and I produced a 3-song demo, and then like that, my song Gypsy Brandy, which was kind of like my homage to Whitesnake's Still of the Night.
Your chance to catch her in your sight, one night say lady with no shame. I touch the plane to the heart of the ball. Couldn't seem to find the food for my love. The night she gypsy, calling out my name, and now she's taking flight without a game.
playing the clubs, and we were doing okay.
What kind of, like, what was the vibe? Because in the 90s, people were musically all over the place from the LA scene. What sort of stuff were you doing?
Hollywood was kind of the trash glam. Everybody was trying to copy a hybrid between Faster Pussycat and Guns N' Roses.
Right.
That was the predominant vibe before Seattle really hit. This is just pre-Seattle.
Yeah, there was it was in that awkward area where all the bands in like the late 80s didn't want to admit they were glam anymore, so they just wore jeans and leather and kind of jumped into the blues metal thing, like, oh, we all listen to Zeppelin now, right?
Yeah, and everybody grew all the layers out of their hair, and it was like Hanoi Rocks meets Faster Pussycat meets Guns N' Roses meets some kind of street sleaze rock and roll image. We nailed a nationally televised Western Union commercial, and we played a band in it called Putrid Rage, and I was making some royalties off of that. And then the guitar player's brother-in-law was doing a couch tour in my apartment and convinced him to leave the band, and that this kind of music wasn't going to stick around. It sucks and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so Joey wound up quitting the band. Thunderball fell apart. I tried one more time, and I put a group together called Flyboys, which was based off of not an ethnic thing, but the actual World War II, what they used to call the pilots.
Right.
Did nose art with the girl and on the nose of the plane with the bullet holes coming through the skin of the airplane. And I was trying to approach something closer to my roots, which was like Steppenwolf meets the Cult. Mm-hmm. That kind of. And I picked up a guitar player out of Philadelphia who knew all the guys from Cinderella, and it started to sound really good. It was a total departure of what I was doing. It was not metal. It was like heavy hard rock, bluesy kind of stuff.
Right.
We did a couple of shows, and I started to find myself in a situation where these guys were like, you know what, let's do this without Rick. Again, it was a Jaguar scenario, and the people that I was bringing in to get behind the band said, well, if there's no Rick, then there's no band. We're not going to help you guys. So I wound up out of the band, and I'm not putting my thumbs in my suspenders on this, the bragging, but I join a band and they start to go somewhere. I leave the band and they fall apart. This has happened several times. So about that point, I started to give up on the music scene. I did a couple of shows with one more band. It was kind of a nobody band. It was called the Wise Guys. And this is now my hair was completely grown out. I looked more like Ian Astbury meets Al Jorgensen from Ministry. I grew the facial hair, the whole schmear. My whole Punky Meadows glam thing was gone. And I did a couple of shows with the whiskey, did some stuff like that. And yeah, I looked more like Al Jorgensen at that point. I had the goatee. And
I'm curious, because one of the big questions that we always talk about on the show is, I'm of the opinion